What's spirituality?
Something related to the faith and thoughts.
Something related to the faith, to the
like link with God.
To the thoughts and to link with God.
The person
And strength.
Okay. Supporting spiritually.
Okay. Spirituality is the way. Now these come from the medical world. These definitions. Spirituality is the way you find meaning, hope, comfort, and inner peace in your life. Many people find spirituality through religion. How many people here is that true for? How many people find spirituality through religion? I think most of us. Some find it through music. Anybody else through music? Art? Or a connection with nature? Others find it in their values and principles. Values, principles? Okay. You know, not everybody that we see is religious, but they could be spiritual. Or they could be religious except on days when they're not. Or they could believe in God except on the days when they don't. Now, I come from the Jewish tradition. There's very strong Jews who don't believe in God. A whole bunch of them. Including an occasional rabbi does not believe in God. Did you know that? Yeah. See, we all have assumptions about what it means to be something else. The answer is, we don't know. How do you find out? You got to ask. The only thing I know when I walk into a room and it says that somebody's got a religious preference is that when they were asked, they said that was their religious preference. So what's your religious preference? Protestant. So what does that tell me about him? That he said Protestant. What does it mean for him? I don't know. How will I find out? Got to ask you. Who are you going to Google? Where are you going to go? You know, you got to Google your heart, right? Okay. So these are some definitions. Something else in medicine's very. Who's been to the doctor? So you know, you go to the doctor, and the doctor or somebody in the office says, "So, tell me what brought you here." And then you say, I don't know, give me an example. A headache. So in doctor lingo, that's the chief complaint. So doctor, we have a patient thing. We have a word for that in Yiddish. Yiddish is one of those Jewish hybrid languages between Hebrew and German in the Eastern. And so in Yiddish, we use the word bupkis. So what does that tell you? Bupkis means nothing. What's it tell you in bupkis? Yeah. So you come in with the chief complaint, but what really matters to you isn't about the headache. What is it about the headache that really prompts you to come in?
Fear.
Fear? What are you scared of? We're just making something up, little role play. Improvisation.
Scared of dying.
You're afraid you might have a tumor. Okay. So now this sounds more like her concern, doesn't it? This is what I call the chief concern. And I teach doctors how to identify the chief concern. As spiritual care people, we're in the business of concern, not complaint. We want to listen for what's really in their kishkas. Kishkas is a word for their guts, in their heart. You know, what's really bothering you, the chief concern. So in providing spiritual care, we listen for our patient and family or staff, whoever we meet. We listen for their concerns. And then, should prayer come up, now the Jewish tradition, prayer is not an automatic deal. It sounds like you Catholics always start out with prayer. In fact, I know this to be true. Because I'll, you know, as chaplains, we go in to see folks, right? All kinds of folks. Muslim folks, Buddhist folks, Hindu, Black Baptist. They call me Reverend. Reverend, we have to pray. Well, the Catholic called me Father Feldstein. So in the Jewish approach, it would be, so hello, what's your, you know, my name's Bruce, a chaplain, and saw you were here, saw your name on the list, wanted to stop by and just say hello and wish you well. We call that schmoozing. You know, you just kind of, it's social. And then the patient might say, I'm not interested. Okay. And then I remember a patient named Max. And he said, I'm not interested. He took one look at the fact that I had this yarmulke. I looked too religious to him. Or he might notice that, I don't know how it is for Muslim patients, but in Jewish tradition, we've got Jews who are very religious, and we have Jews who are very secular, and they don't want any of that religious stuff. So there, I could imagine somebody might see your beautiful hijab and say, oh, I'm not interested. Although you look so sweet, how could you know? And that's the thing, when people look like this gentleman, look at that dear face, right? You know, and you too. How are we gonna say no? But this guy said to me, Max said to me, I'm not interested. I said, what aren't you interested in? He went on for 20 minutes about what he wasn't interested in. And he went through his whole history. He said, well, they made me go to Hebrew school. And then when I had children, we belonged to the synagogue. And do you know that rabbi? And he went on and on and on about that. And you know what? They just wanted our money. And he went on and on and on. And finally he says, but you know, you're okay. You come on back. It's the same thing that Mark said. And what's the secret here? It's our presence and our listening. Okay. Let's turn the page. Okay, we're doing fine. Plenty of time. Okay, so now what allows for this kind of an interaction, or any kind of interaction? In my tradition, and they didn't teach us this in medical school, so I have to teach this to the medical students. It's important before we go in to recognize that we're already preoccupied. We're already busy. We've got a list of patients. We're going to go from one to the other, to the other, to the other. And what about our society? It's a busy one. Anybody suffer with busyness here? Oh, where's our Taiwan person? Or Chinese people? So I learned, actually this is so interesting. I learned something about my own tradition about the Sabbath. You know what the Sabbath is? Sabbath is a time out, time to rest. And so in this book of the Sabbath, it was written by a Protestant minister, Wayne Muller. And Wayne Muller was quoting a Benedictine monk, Brother Stendhal Rast. Anybody know of his work? Oh, he's terrific. Find it on YouTube and listen to the guy. He's got this Austrian accent, and it doesn't matter what he says, but I love it, you know? It's that kind of a guy. And he talks about gratitude. Well, Brother Stendhal Rast was explaining to Wayne Muller, the Protestant minister, something he learned from a Chinese man. And in China, the word for busy, you know the Chinese character? It's a single character that had two parts. And this character for the word busy was heart. Heart and killing. Heart killing. That's what busy is. So what is our heart? It's our cardiac muscle, but it's an organ of vision. It's an organ that allows us to see and appreciate what matters most. So heart killing. So if I'm already busy, how can I possibly be available if I'm preoccupied? So I want to give you part 2 of the of gelling. Now, how does gelling have anything to do with spiritual care in going into a room? So it's about preparing our attention and intention. Say that, attention and intention. Attention and intention. Okay, let go of what you're holding on to and stand up. We're gonna all prepare, like if you were on rounds with me or mentoring, you know, we have to go into the room, and we have to gel, right? So here's how I do it. It's going to take a lot longer to say than to do it. Let me first show you what it looks like. Sit down for a minute so you could all see me. There's a lot of tall people up here in the front row. And I'm doing the up and down. Why? What keeps us awake? It's a very Jewish thing too. In our worship services, there's a lot of standing and sitting. We always say, stand as you're able to. Okay, so here's what it looks like. on the door. Okay, that's what it looks like. So let me unpack that for you. Everybody stand up. What I just did was I prepared my attention and intention before I went in the room. So, first I feel my feet grounded on the floor. Feel your feet. This is all about mindfulness. Feel your feet, and I feel your legs, and your body, and your head. And now, I gotta keep your eyes open. No falling out over in the middle of the hallway. This is advanced meditation. Keep your eyes open. So, we're gonna be standing, and I'm feeling my feet. You could close your eyes briefly if you want to. And feel the axis between your feet and your head, between the ground and the ceiling. And if you want to get spiritual about this, between the earth and the sky and the heaven. Between the below and the above. Between the material and the ethereal. And who bridges that? We do. Okay, so maintain your awareness of that. Okay, at the same time, be aware of your breath coming in and out. Now in Hebrew, the word for breath and the word for spirit are the same word, ruach. How is it in Hindi? Where's my Hindi friends? I think it's prana, means the same thing, same word. What about in Arabic?
Ruh.
Same word?
Ruh.
Say it again?
Ruh.
Ruach, same word. It's the same word. I get a ch and you get a little bit of ruach. How am I doing? Pretty good, huh? Salam alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam. Okay. So, by the way, it's nice to be able to say hello and goodbye in everybody's. Okay, so back. Remember, we're feeling the axis and the breath. Okay? Now, we gel. Okay? And we do the 15-second stuff. She says you do it till you're dry. I've never seen that. But I suppose it's possible. I stop at this point after a while, and then I just lift up my hands. Now, I'm maintaining awareness of my feet, my body, my breath, and I'm feeling the evaporation of the gel from my hands. Can you feel it? Who can feel it? Raise your hands. Amen, brother and sister. Okay. So you can feel it, right? Okay. Now, here's what I'm thinking. I'm imagining. Not thinking. I'm imagining all my preoccupations. All my worries. How am I going to do when I go in the room? Are they going to accept me? Are they going to not accept me? Am I going to know what to say? Am I not going to know what to say? Doesn't matter. Let it go. Preoccupations are evaporating away. Okay? So my hands are up. I'm not doing this in the middle of the hall. What? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, Lord, Allah. Okay. So I'm going to be a little more modest here, right? So I've got my hands up. Now I say a little prayer. It's a Jewish prayer, but you could say whatever prayer you want or whatever thought you want. For me, the gist of it is, my hands are open. May I be open. May I be of service. So now I've prepared my attention, and I'm prepared to prepare my intention. So now, what do I intend as I walk in the room? What do you intend when you walk in the room?
Be a kind presence.
Okay. In the interest of time, let's just, I'll give you my answer, and then you can think about yours. You can, when I say it's mine, it's not mine, really. I mean, it came through me and things, so it's all yours, too. Welcome, have at it, you know, because that's how we do it here. We draw from each other. So for me, as I come in the room, may I meet you, my patient. The word patient also means every relationship in that person's life, because we are each other, right? So may I meet you, my patient, and all the people around the bedside. In your world, as it is for you, and may I accompany you from there. Accompany, that's the operative word here. By the way, when the Israelis introduced spiritual care into their, a group of us went over to help Israel decide they wanted to make spiritual care a new profession. So they needed to come up with a word for chaplain. So there's no word for chaplain in Hebrew. So they had to come up with their own word. So the word that they came up with in Hebrew is livui ruchani, which means a spiritual accompanier. And you know what I like about that? It really gets, I think, at the essence of what we do. We accompany people. May I meet you in your world as it is for you and accompany you from there. May I bring a quality of presence. You could see if I've prepared myself in this way. Like Mark said, sometimes we have these great moments, but when you prepare yourself, it's much, much more likely to bring this quality of presence that allows you to connect with your source of strength or comfort or meaning, however it is for you. And whatever time I have, may I be fully present with you. And whatever matters most for you, that's what matters for me too. So that's my preparing my attention and intention. Okay, you may sit down now. Okay. And then we come in the room. We knock. I've got a couple of comments on here about knocking. Okay. Also about what happens if the patient appears asleep. I'm not going to go over that now, but you could read that. Okay. Now we're going to do a little role play. So I need a volunteer to be a patient. Libby, would you be our... Okay. Okay, so here, sit yourself down. I'll give you straight. I'll give you straight. Okay, so you're the patient. I'm going to need a. Would you help out? All right, come on up. You can just stand over there. Let me show you your cue. Okay, good. And now, you can all follow along, or you could just watch. I encourage you just to watch. So when I say follow along, in the handout it says how not to do it. So we're going to demonstrate a role play of how not to do it. And here's my pedagogical thinking. So we're going to have an exaggerated example of how not to make a visit. And let's see what we can learn from that, okay? So the actual lines are right here on your handout. The handout that says how not to do it. Does everybody have one? They have that. Okay. Raise your hand if you do not have one.
You know what you could do? Maybe do the role play and then give them the questions out.
So we're gonna do the role play and then you can pick this up on your way out. Okay? You ready? Do you need the for the video? Do you need the microphone?
No, I don't.
No. Okay. So I'm going to be the volunteer. Can you hear me? This is our patient, and this is another person. So I'm looking at my list. We'll pass these out later. Okay, ready? Everybody ready? Here we go. Good evening, ma'am. Oh, my, what beautiful flowers.
Hello.
Hello. Let me pull up a chair. So, just what kind of medical problem brings you here?
I have this pain in my chest.
A little louder, I can't hear you in the
I
back.
have this pain in my chest. The doctors don't know what it is.
Oh, you poor thing. That sounds so terrible. So what church do you go to? And how often do you attend?
Sit elsewhere once in a while.
Oh, now that's your problem, Mrs. Jones. You need to pray more. Stronger faith in God. God is the great healer, Mrs. Jones, will save you from all sins and cure all your strife. Faith in God, Mrs. Jones. Faith in God. Oh, why, hello, you must be Mr. Jones. You know, I was just speaking.
That's my sister.
I was just about to say, I was just speaking with your wife.
He went over your
I'm
wife.
on the bedpan.
Oh, looks like this isn't a good time for you, huh?
Would you like to take this in for me, please?
Stand up, let's talk. All right. Now, in the style of, we call it a verbatim. What we would do in our chaplaincy training, for any of you who want to go on and do the professional training like I did, and there may be some of you, I don't know that. There might be some of you that get hooked like in this like I did and others. But we would go line by line and just look at what was done and evaluate it. So what were some problems here? What was wrong with this picture? Anybody? She was asleep. You don't just come walk in and you don't wake up. Now sleep's really precious. On the other hand, a visit with you, priceless. But how do you know the difference? Read the sleep test and you'll know why. Okay, what else was the problem with this?
More like an invasion.
An invasion. What else? Intrusive.
Social conversation.
Oh, wait, first you.
Oh, there was no listening.
No listening. It was just nonstop. Right. And what about you?
Social conversation.
Yeah. You notice the social conversation. Did we get it to anything like deep and not even a non-starter? Yeah, run on.
Made a lot of assumptions.
Oh, a lot of assumptions. You know what they taught me about assumptions? And when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. That's how assumers is, right? And if I think I know what's going on with you, they got three fingers pointing. Right. So what were some of those presumptions?
Well, first of all, that she wanted to see.
Yeah. First, starting right from that she was open for a visit, that she wanted to see me. What else was presumptuous?
The religious part of it.
What?
The religious part of it.
The religious part. I don't know that she's religious. I mean, I assumed she was. The volunteer assumed she was. Me? And did you notice how I just pulled the chair right up? No, you want to ask permission. You know, after you talk a little bit and you see they're engaged, may I sit with you? Do you hear the openness of that? None of this going on. What else was problematic here?
You didn't introduce yourself, you just walked right in.
Oh yeah, no introduction.
You assumed she was a church member.
I assumed she was a church member. A lot of assumption.
Preaching.
What's that?
Preaching, like.
Oh, what about the preaching? I might think I've got the greatest theology, understanding, way in the world. But that's like Mark was saying. Our teacher Mark was saying, you know, that might be good for me, but I'm not here for me. I'm here for you. So I want to find out I want to meet you in your world as it is for you. And then if you'll invite me in and allow me, may I accompany you from there? Okay?
I didn't see you gel in.
Right, no gel. No, that's not going to fly. Okay. So there was no gelling. Okay. So you get the idea here. And you know what? I bet every one of us is going to make some of these mistakes. You know, you might forget about gelling. You might not. You might see somebody with their eyes closed and say, oh, they're sleeping, and go the other way. They might have missed the most important visit of their whole hospitalization. You might assume that that's the husband walking in when it's not. In this case, it was the brother. We're all going to make, actually, most all these things have happened to me.
What you don't want to do is say, oh, your mother, and it's your wife.
Have you done that one?
Yes, sure.
Okay, right. So, all right, you get the idea. So, I want to.
Can I ask you one quick question, Bruce?
Yeah.
You know, we've given the impression that we want depth, but you know, they've never seen us before. We're coming into the room. Sometimes we have to tolerate a little bit of ice breaking.
Oh,
Could you
yeah.
just address that a little bit, the fact that we have to sometimes transition a little bit? You can't expect to get to the depths in 5
Yeah,
seconds.
we call it schmoozing. Schmoozing. It's like, you know. So where are you from, Sally? If you weren't here at the hospital, what would you be doing?
All I do is all my husband.
Tell me about your husbands.
Mark.
No,
here's some things. So, yeah, it's light. And then when you sense to go in, it'll just flow naturally. There is one thing I want to say. I just want to bring your attention on page 3. When the doctor enters, you were in the middle of it. You heard some of that. Page 3 of the on the goals of medicine handout. Okay. So these are some lessons from experienced volunteers. She's actually standing back there in the purple, but she didn't want her name referenced because she's a person of great humility, but she's a tremendous teacher, like all the volunteers here. So when the doctor comes in, and maybe you're, what do you say? So these are some options for you. You could read those later. In my tradition, and I believe it applies for everyone, there's no visit that's complete without a blessing. Now here's this problem. You and I might be of a different faith. We might be of the same faith, but you might not be religious at all. If I were to even use the word blessing, that might offend you like crazy. And one of my words is do not offend. So it's easy to make prayer when it's easy to make prayer. So how do we make a blessing, quote, without using the word blessing? So blessing is a certain phenomenon. We can create the phenomenon of blessing, and this is what I wanted to do with you. If we were together after a while, I might say, you know, it's been such a nice visit. Before I go, what can I wish for you? So let me just ask you, you don't have to say it all out loud, we don't have time one at a time, but what can I wish for you? As you're embarking on this. Don't say it because we don't have the time, but what could I wish for you? And then what I could say is, you know what I wish for you? I wish for you that, like the Irish say, the road, you can trust that the road will come up to meet you. You have a good heart that brought you here, and it wasn't just you alone, and you can trust that. And as you come along this path, may you be well used, be of service, and be well accompanied along your way. And what I hope for you is that you will discover that there's a world here beyond what you can imagine. And I got to tell you, I really admire whatever it was that brought you here, that you're sitting here now. I admire that. And what else I wish for you is all the things that are unspoken in your heart. The things that you can't even put into words yet. Including what you might want to say out loud in 5 minutes from now or think later that you didn't say now. It includes that too. So thank you all, and we look forward to seeing you.